What if I told you that the most famous entertainer in American history, a man with a personal physician, round the clock staff, and unlimited money, died from a condition that millions of Americans are living with right now, today, and don't even know it? Not a rare disease, not something exotic or unusual, a silent, invisible, completely preventable combination of health problems that builds quietly for years. And then one day, without much warning at all, it takes everything. Elvis Presley was 42 years old when he died. 42. And the true story of what happened to his body in those final years, the real medical picture that his team kept hidden from the public, is something every single person over 50 in America needs to sit down and hear. Because what happened to Elvis is happening to people right now. Maybe in your family, maybe in your own body, and most of them have no idea. Stay with me. This could be the most important 12 minutes you spend today. When Elvis died on August 16th, 1977, the world was told it was a heart attack. And technically, that was true. His heart stopped. But a heart doesn't just stop on its own in a 42-year-old man without a long list of reasons, building behind the scenes for years. The real story came out slowly through the doctors who treated him, the people who lived with him at Graceland, and eventually through medical investigations that painted a picture far more complicated and far more recognizable than anyone wanted to admit. Elvis had been suffering from a condition called polypharmacy. That's a medical term for something very simple and very dangerous. Taking too many prescription medications at the same time in combinations that the body was never designed to handle. At the time of his death, his personal doctor had prescribed him somewhere between 14 and 20 different medications on a regular basis. Now, I want you to pause on that number for a moment, because here is the shocking part. Studies today show that 1 in 3 Americans over the age of 50 takes 5 or more prescription medications every day, and nearly 1 in 5 takes 10 or more. The specific drugs are different. The era is different, but the danger is the same. Too many medications, talking to each other inside your body in ways no single doctor fully tracks, can quietly damage your heart, your liver, your kidneys, and your brain over months, over years, until one day the system simply cannot keep up. That was Elvis. And that right now is a reality for millions of Americans who trust their doctors completely, but have never once sat down and had someone look at their full medication list from top to bottom and ask the question, is all of this actually working together safely? Here is what makes the story of Elvis's final years so hard to watch. The warning signs were everywhere. They were visible to anyone paying attention, and the people around him either didn't know what they were seeing or they chose to look away. Let me describe those signs to you. And as I do, I want you to think honestly, not just about Elvis, but about yourself or someone you love. His weight had changed dramatically and rapidly. In his early 40s, Elvis went from a lean, athletic performer to someone who was struggling enormously with his size. Rapid, unexplained weight gain, particularly around the midsection, is one of the body's most consistent ways of signaling that something hormonal, cardiac, or metabolic is going wrong. It is not laziness, it is not weakness, it is a symptom. His sleep was completely broken. People who were close to him at Graceland described a man who could not maintain any normal sleep pattern. He slept for 12, 14 hours some days. Other days he was awake for 20 hours straight. This kind of severe sleep disruption, especially in middle age, is almost always connected to deeper problems. It can be a sign of heart strain. It can be a sign of medication interactions. And it is also one of the most powerful risk factors for heart attack and stroke that we know of. He had severe chronic constipation. This sounds almost uncomfortable to mention, but it is important. His doctors confirmed that his colon at the time of death was in very poor condition, enlarged and impacted in a way that had clearly been building for a long time. Persistent digestive problems in people over 50 are often the body's signal that circulation is compromised, that the gut is not receiving adequate blood flow, and that inflammation is present throughout the body. Most people ignore these symptoms because they are embarrassing or because they seem minor. They are not minor. He was exhausted in a way that rest could not fix. People who saw him backstage in his final year described a man who looked depleted at a cellular level. That kind of bone-deep fatigue, the kind where you sleep 8 hours and wake up just as tired, is something millions of Americans over 50 describe to their doctors every single year. And too often, they are told it is just aging. It is not just aging. It is a warning. He was emotionally withdrawn and struggling with what we now recognize as depression. At the time, mental health was not spoken about, certainly not for a man of Elvis's stature. But the isolation, the loss of interest in things that once brought him joy, the difficulty connecting, these are classic signs of a mind and body under enormous chronic stress. Every single one of those signs, the weight, the sleep, the fatigue, the digestive problems, the emotional withdrawal, they are all connected. They are all part of the same picture. And that picture has a name. The human body is not a collection of separate parts that each work on their own. Your heart talks to your gut. Your gut talks to your brain. Your sleep quality directly affects your heart muscle. Your stress hormones directly affect your weight and your circulation. Everything is connected all the time. What was happening to Elvis was a cascade, one problem feeding the next, until the whole system was overwhelmed. He had significant heart disease. His heart was enlarged. The walls of his arteries were hardened with plaque buildup that had likely been building since his 30s. This is called atherosclerosis, and it is the single leading cause of death in America today. It does not announce itself with sharp pain in most cases. It builds silently, year after year, fed by poor diet, chronic stress, sleep deprivation, and yes, certain medications that raise blood pressure and put constant extra demand on the heart. He had what we now understand to be metabolic syndrome, a combination of high blood pressure, blood sugar problems, excess weight around the abdomen, and abnormal cholesterol levels that together multiply the risk of heart attack dramatically. This condition is present in approximately 1 in 3 American adults over the age of 50. Most of them have been told about one piece of it. Maybe their doctor mentioned their blood pressure or their cholesterol, but no one has sat them down and said, these things together are a serious emergency, and we need to treat this as a whole, not in pieces. And then there were the medications, sleeping pills that suppressed his breathing at night, creating a condition very similar to severe sleep apnea, where the body stops breathing repeatedly during sleep, starving the heart of oxygen hour after hour. Pain medications that slowed his gut to a near standstill. Stimulants that pushed his heart rate higher when it needed rest. All of it prescribed by a doctor who was trying to solve individual problems without seeing, or perhaps without wanting to see, what they were all doing together. This is not ancient history. This is happening in homes across America today. Now, I need you to hear this part carefully, because this is where the story of Elvis Presley stops being just a tragedy and starts being a gift, if you choose to use it. The first and most important thing you can do, if you are over 50 and you take multiple medications, is to ask your doctor for a medication review. Not a regular checkup, a specific conversation where you bring every pill, every supplement, every over-the-counter medicine you take, and you sit down and ask, can you look at all of these together and tell me if there are any interactions I should know about? This is called a medication reconciliation, and you have every right to request it. Many people have never done this once in their lives. The second thing is to take your sleep seriously, not as a luxury, but as medicine. Adults over 50 who consistently get fewer than 6 hours of sleep, or who sleep in fragmented, restless patterns, have measurably higher rates of heart attack, stroke, and cognitive decline. If you are waking up tired, if you snore heavily, if you feel exhausted regardless of how long you sleep, please talk to your doctor about being evaluated for sleep apnea. It is extraordinarily common. It is easy to test for, and treating it has a profound effect on heart health. Third, and this one is simple, but most people resist it, pay attention to your gut. Persistent constipation, persistent bloating, persistent changes in digestion that have been present for more than a few weeks are worth a conversation with your doctor. The gut is sometimes called the second brain for good reason. What happens there reflects what is happening throughout your entire body. Fourth, please don't ignore emotional health. Depression in adults over 50 is massively underdiagnosed and undertreated. It is not weakness. It is not self-pity. It is a medical condition with physical consequences, including a significantly increased risk of heart disease. If you have been feeling low, disconnected, or like you have lost interest in life for more than 2 weeks, that is worth telling your doctor. There is help available and it works. And finally, the single most powerful thing you can control every day is what you eat and how you move. Not a dramatic overhaul, not a crash diet, something sustainable and realistic. Half your plate filled with vegetables and fruits. Walking for 30 minutes a day, even slowly. Reducing processed food and sugar, not because of how you look, but because of what those things do to your arteries over years and decades. Small changes, done consistently, have been shown in study after study to reduce the risk of heart attack by more than 30%. That is not a small number. That is your life. Elvis Presley deserved better. He deserved a doctor who looked at the whole picture, not just the individual problems. He deserved people around him who felt free to say, "Something is wrong and we need to deal with it now." He deserved to know that the warning signs his body was sending for years were not just inconveniences to be managed with another pill. They were calls for help. He didn't get that. And at 42, in a bathroom at Graceland, alone, one of the most beloved human beings in American history ran out of time. You still have time. That is the difference between his story and yours. You are here, right now, watching this, which means you have something he didn't have in those final years: the information, the awareness, and the choice to do something about it. Please don't wait for a crisis to start paying attention to your body. Don't wait until the symptoms become impossible to ignore. Don't wave away the fatigue, the weight changes, the broken sleep, the way your heart sometimes beats a little harder than it should. Those are not signs of aging. Those are invitations to act. Talk to your doctor. Ask the questions. Bring someone with you if that helps. Advocate for yourself the way you would advocate for someone you love, because that is exactly who you are. The same body that has carried you through decades of life, through everything you have faced and survived and built. It is still working for you right now. Every breath is it asking you to work with it, not against it. Elvis never got a second chance. You do. Use it.